to the Traveler Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Vandenberg. On our show, I interview and connect with leaders across travel, hospitality, and tourism. We talk leadership in our industry, what has shaped them, the successes, failures, and everything in between. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Stacia Harvey-Randall from the Whitley Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia, where she is the Director of Human Resources. So with that, I would love to welcome Stacia today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel.
So we have had the pleasure to meet through the Women in Hospitality Leadership Alliance. I am so thrilled that Black Women in Hospitality has joined the alliance and that we're going to be able to get to know each other more through that. I also have an organization called Accelerate Women Leaders in Travel, which is focused on leadership in the industry. So I know we're going to learn a lot more from each other in the weeks and months and years to come, for sure. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so we can, and yeah, I'll give you some space to talk more about that at the end. And to get us started, we're just really focusing on you as a leader. What has been the red thread through your career?
So basically I've had a lot of barriers that has happened with me, as far as moving up in my career. So I had to learn, resilience as well as patience because things don't come right when you want them, right? But timing is everything. So, I had to work through, for one, self-awareness and being self-aware of areas that were my weaknesses that I needed to improve on. I had to work through ensuring that I completed my education in order for that door of human resources to open for me. And then I also had to make sure that I had an open mind, and have the willingness to change because sometimes when you are in the same environment, that's all you know and you become complacent. And I had to realize that sometimes I have to think outside the box or be willing to discover new things that may challenge me, but that may be when you get that right opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what hit me the most is what you said right off the bat about resilience. And that's such an important quality and thing to learn as a leader. Can you say a little bit more about what that means to you and how building resilience has helped you in this journey?
So hospitality is not for the weak. I always say it's not a career, it's a calling. So when you're serving your guests and you're trying to focus on what you want to do in your career, you immediately become strong, because you see a lot of problem resolution situations. You get many different obstacles. You have to be quick to think on your feet. The industry is very changing. So it's not a routine. Your day is different every time you walk into
Hmm.
work. So it kind of prepares you to be strong, but sometimes you may have situations that can break you down when things don't go a certain way, as planned, whether it's with how you wanted to service your guests and you wanted them to respond, or how you may have applied for a particular position and you didn't get it. And sometimes those no's help you be able to cope and assess and figure out different ways of how you can get the yes. And I feel like that is part of the foundation of building the resilience. You have to be told no in order for you to be resilient. Because if you get yeses all the time, you feel like you're always winning and it doesn't give you
Mm.
a sense of purpose or appreciation. So I've always been thankful for my no's as I have matured in the industry and in my career because I felt like those no's really made me strong. So now when I
Mm-hmm.
get a no, it just like bounces off. And I'm like, I got a no this time, but tomorrow I'm going to get a yes. And it gives me a sense of urgency to really go after that yes. And it keeps my day to day very challenging. So without resilience, I feel it wouldn't even be rewarding because I love the chase. I love the challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
when you overcome it, you be like, God, I cannot believe that I went through all those hurdles, but I made it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the greatest part. And you end up having a story that you can share with someone else that has been impacted by a no, and they don't know how to cope with that. And I feel like I have stories and a skill set to share with women, to share with the world, that you want your resilience, and it's okay to get your no's because it's going to be the greatest resilience story that you could ever tell.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like what you are doing with those no's and those, potentially what could be setbacks is you're learning from them. And it's like it's becoming a driver for you for, you're not letting it beat you down. You're using it to drive your motivation for the next step, whatever that might be. That's such a great quality. And it reminds me a lot of the idea of growth mindset, right? Just not accepting, failure doesn't identify you. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really something that can fuel you in
Yes.
your growth and learning and development for sure. So, what impact do you strive to have on the travel and hospitality industry?
Well, I feel like a lot of times our voices aren't heard. I feel like we just work, 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 serve, 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 serve. And it's just like, what about us? What about what we want? What about, yes, we want to service our guests, we want to service our employees, but what about us? And I feel like sometimes there's not enough safe spaces for people in the hotel industry to really come and have or join a network. That's why when I saw the Women Alliance umbrella, I was like, this is something that I definitely want to be a part of, because you may have your outlets at work. Um, but I'm thinking like beyond work. What happens after you get off?
Mm,
What happens to the connections that you want to build? And I feel like me coming in and establishing or co-founding an organization, I'm going to be able to impact women that may not have had that outlet or that safe space where they work. And they
mm,
don't have to wait to go to work to receive an accolade. They don't have to wait and go to work to receive a mentorship or support. They can get off from work and know, if I can't get it from work, I could get it from the Black women of hospitality. And that's just an impact. Just when people have meltdowns at work, they call me and they send me a message and they say, I don't think hospitality is for me. And it breaks my heart because
mm,
I'm like, it is definitely for you. You just need another woman that's resilient to tell you that you can do it. You received your no, and now you're ready to give up. Now you're ready to just say hospitality is not for you. It is for you. You just have to cope through your no, but know that your yes
mhm.
is coming. And when they hang up the phone, they feel so much better about themselves, whether they had someone at work tell them this or not. When they got off from work, they were able to come into a safe space and feel better about themselves when they leave a call, a meeting, a phone message, whatever message I send in LinkedIn, it inspires them. And I feel like I'm making an impact, and we haven't even accomplished all of the goals yet that we wanted to. And if I could turn every woman to be their best self every day, that is just so rewarding to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what you're really creating is this community, right? That of supporting each other
Yes.
and perhaps filling gaps that, of things that might be missing in the workplace. And I also like what you say about the safe space, and I'm wondering if you can say more about how you create that space.
So it's about really connecting and getting to know the woman, right? Really finding out, what is it that the woman needs. And, as I tell them, your conversation with me is confidential. I mean, because I have many women in the group that work for many different organizations. And my job is for them to return to their organization and be their best selves. So when they come to me, it is a safe space because they know that they can trust me. They know that I'm going to give them the right guidance. And they know that I'm not going to get on the phone and share all of this information with people that they work with or people that they know. That's why I said it has to be a sense of safe space as well as confidentiality. Because if a person is opening up to me, the last thing I want to do is ruin that relationship by someone else finding out something that they shared with me. Maybe it was a weakness that they didn't want everybody to know about, but they're asking me to assist them or mentor them on that. Once they feel comfortable with me, like I feel great about it because I'm like, this person is breaking down all of their weaknesses and they're putting them right in front of me and saying, this is me. This is who I am beyond the call, beyond the LinkedIn, beyond what you see on the resume. This is me. Now, what do I need to do? And that is where I get to come in and make my impact. And then they feel, when they've made it to their goal, they feel like that was a safe space. I built my resilience without having to worry about shame or having to worry about being knocked down. Sometimes we get so beat up at work or other places, but when you come into this organization, you're going to feel good about yourself. So knowing that it's a safe space makes it even better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's really a lot of times, as much as we want to create those spaces within the workplace, it's not always possible because, there's still always that fear, will this, whatever I say, will it be held against me? And you're creating something outside of that where people, speaking of having a voice, can really express what's going on very genuinely and completely without that fear. And that I think that speaks to a lot of just I mean, not just women, not just women of color, but everybody, men as
Everybody.
well. What everybody really needs is some kind of community like that, to have that sounding board, to have that support. Yeah, I think you really point out something really fundamental. A lot of people think that leaders can, are self-sufficient and can do everything themselves. But I think we can all use that kind of support for sure.
Yes, most definitely.
How would someone you work with closely describe you as a leader?
Well, they would say that I'm very creative. I'm a go-getter. I always find a solution. I never just, leave it with who I don't know what that's gonna look like, or I don't know what that's gonna turn out to be. I'm not gonna stop working on it until I get the solution. I'm definitely a team player, and I love to do things in a collaborative environment. They would also say that I love to challenge and push beyond their limits. And I like to say, when they say, oh, I'm not really all that creative, yes, you are.
Mm,
Let's see if you're creative. I'm going to delegate this to you and I want to see what you do with it. And don't worry about doing it my way. I want you to find your way. As long as it's done, I don't care if it takes you 50 minutes, but it takes me 4 hours. As long as it's done, that's all that matters to me. But I want you to find your own way. So I like to challenge my HR manager every day. When she says, oh, I don't think I could do it like you. Well, you're not supposed to do it like me. I just set an example of what needs to be done, but I want you to bring your own creativity to the assignment. And I was like, and it's not going to be no judgment. I'm not going to say, well, if that was me, I would have, because it's not me. I asked you to do it, and now I want to see what you're going to do. So she likes that because she says, wow, you trust me to do it. In the past, I've had leaders that are just like, oh no, I'm not going to give that to her because she's going to mess it up. But you give it to me and you leave it and you just wait and assess. And then you give me feedback. And then they would also say like, I have a lot of energy. And sometimes they find they can't match the energy whenever it comes to events and things like that. But like I told them, this is me. I've always been energetic from a little girl to a grown woman. Everything I talk about it, I'm very passionate about it. I'm very excited about it. That's who I am. No matter what the situation is, I'm gonna make excitement about whatever I'm talking about. So that's a trait that's very unique. That when someone works with me, they're wondering, is this how she is, or is this what she does when she's at work? And then they learn to see, no, that's who she is.
I would love to work with you. Your energy is infectious. That I wouldn't need any caffeine in the morning.
In the morning.
That you would be the daily dose, I think.
The daily
and
dose,
I think, and I think that's wonderful. I mean, I think we need that energy, and we need that inspiration. And that's what I feel only happy when I hear you talk about that, and energize myself. And I think, the other thing that was coming up for me as you were talking about is this notion of challenging, but challenging with support and encouragement, and really trying to stretch the people that work for you, like get them out of their comfort zone into something that might be uncomfortable, but really pushing them and saying, hey, I believe in you.
Yes.
And that can be, I mean, that's so powerful. If that really helps someone grow, for sure.
And not
Love
only
it.
inside the office, but outside the office too. When I have managers that come down and say, I don't know what to do with this person. And I say, well, what would you like to do with this person? And, we talk through the many different situations, and they'd be like, you know what? That is a good option. I'm like, yes, and you can do it. I believe in you. So leave out of here and go do it. They're like, thank you. So it's good to see them reach inside themselves and find the things that they didn't think they could do, and then they master it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That kind of relates to a little bit of my next question is, what makes your life and work meaningful? I can imagine, having that impact makes it very meaningful, but what else makes it, both your life and career, meaningful?
I'm very result driven. So, I like to look at goals that I have to meet, and I want to exceed them every time. I'm very competitive. If I miss something, I want to look at it and figure out, why did I miss this? How did I miss this? I want to go back and try to fix it. And when I exceed that goal, I just feel so great about myself. And sometimes I have to give my own self a pat on the back and be like, girl, you did so good.
Yeah. We don't do enough of that.
Yes,
We don't do enough of that.
when I get off, I just run outside and I'm like, yes, I really just nailed it. And I'll give an example with our associate engagement scores. Like, we went up 4 points from last year, and 4 points may not seem like a lot to me, but when you look at the scores and you're like 95.6 of your associates stated that they love where they work, I just was like, I was in awe for like a week because I was like,
That's
this
big.
is amazing. I'm responsible for the associate environment. And to know that we increased, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And those are the kind of things that make me want to get up and go to work the next day, when I know that I'm exceeding my goals, when I know that, my team members ask, if they can talk to me because they want to know what I think. I feel included. I feel like my voice matters. Um, when you get corporate shout outs and you're getting accolades outside of your hotel from a larger scale,
Mm-hmm.
that also gives me like, oh, hug yourself, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
because that
absolutely.
is huge. That means that whatever impact you're making is not on a local property base. It's showcasing to the world. And you know, that's what I strive for every day. You
Yeah.
know, that's what it's about.
What I'm hearing too is that it's, yeah, like this idea of a achievement and meaningful achievement that's really impacting people. And it's something, it's not like it's something about, it's not about you it being out there getting all this praise and compliments, but it's almost like you're in competition with yourself. You're always striving to be better and self improve your achievements and get to the next level. And that constantly challenging yourself to reach those goals is something that really makes and drives you every on a daily basis.
And you have to have that because if you don't have any goals, it's kind of like what are you working for? You know, so I
Hmm.
love to have goals and I love to be, you know, judged on my performance by metrics. You
Hmm.
know, that's what keeps me going because if you don't have that, it's like you're working, but what are you really working towards? Which helps
Right.
you develop a plan for yourself. Once you've mastered that, then what's next? Like I want to make sure that I'm staying of course in tune and challenged, and I don't want to be complacent. So I'm always thinking now, what's next?
Hmm.
Because I don't want to tie up a spot where, you know, I'm just sitting. And at some point, you know, you have to move on to something different because if not, you become comfortable, you know. So it's like I want to get into something, do it, prove myself, show that I could do it on a consistent basis. And then I need to go on to the next project.
Those goals, I think sometimes we set goals that it's possible that we set safe goals,
Mm-hmm.
and where we really want to be is like in those that stretch goal space. What is something you're working on right now that's important to you in terms of a stretch goal for the future?
So right now, I am working on having my own business because I'm putting together a retirement plan and I don't want to just travel when I retire. I still want to work, but I
Hmm.
want to work for myself. So I am building the foundation. I want a public speaking business that offers many different services from coaching to career planning and conflict resolution. So I am building that and I'm not in a rush to do it, but once
Hmm.
a week I'm working towards it because when it's time for me to retire, I want it already set. I want to have already built a strong network of individuals that would be interested in those
Hmm.
services. It's a lot of things I could do without actually performing that job right now. I could still market. I could still, you know, build a network, a community. I could still meet individuals. I could still educate myself on business resources. So that's kind of my goal. And I'm working on it once a week, like I'm starting it at the end of the year. And I'm talking about not doing this until I'm in my 60s. But I'm like, when I'm 60, I might not have the fire and the energy to be excited about marketing and all of
Right.
these things that I'm interested in now. I'm gonna just be ready to take the shoes off and you know hit the ground running. So I want to do all of the hard things right now. So whenever it's time for me to retire, I'm just going live.
Well, what you also point out is that achieving those big visions and long-term goals, they don't just happen overnight.
They don't.
There's a lot of building blocks that happen over time to get you there, and you just have to build it brick by brick.
Yeah.
And you're laying that foundation and laying those bricks to get to that vision. And I think that's what we often can struggle with is we kind of know where we're headed, but we don't know and we can't see the path in front of us and the small steps that need to be taken. And that's something you're getting a lot of clarity on now. I think
Yeah.
that's very helpful for people to hear. Moving on to our next question, when have you underestimated yourself?
Oh, when um I was an assistant director of HR and I kept saying I wasn't ready to be a director. And I did that underestimation for almost 4 years because I became complacent being the number two. So every time a position will come available and I'll be like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And then when I finally applied for HR director, finally got myself in the position, I'm like, I totally underestimated myself. I was doing this job the entire time.
Oh, yeah. There's something we can learn from that.
Yes.
What would you tell someone else now learning from that experience?
I would tell someone that if someone is trying to encourage you to advance, go through the door because obviously they see something in you that you don't see in yourself. So if they're telling you you're ready, listen to them because that means they're seeing you perform. You just can't
Yeah.
see. I listened to people telling me that for 3 years.
Yeah.
I could have been a director, but I was holding myself back. I
Yes.
was the
Yeah.
barrier, not having the confidence.
Yes. Yeah. And that's something as a coach that I deal with a lot with my clients. And I mean, I've been through that. I mean, I still go through that. I still underestimate myself. And that is often like the biggest transformation for people in their their personal development happens when they build that confidence, when they address their fears and they realize that no one else is holding them back, that they have to have the courage to step in
Hmm.
and go after it. So that's very sound advice for sure.
Absolutely.
What event has shaped you as a leader?
Co-founding this organization, Black Women of Hospitality, because you wear many different hats from marketing to um, being a leader to being a mentor, um, media presentations, graphic design. I'm just like, whoa, I'm doing all of this. And even if I
Wow.
don't know how to do something, I'm Googling how to do it to just get it done. And I see that it's shaping me to really show me that I have different areas that I'm not that great in it. But when I try it and I do it, I'm like, oh, that it was a little hard because I wasn't used to doing that. But when it becomes repetitive, I'm like, this is another skill set that I self-taught. So it is really shaping me into a person that's all around. And now I can understand all different jobs that we're going to need in the organization.
Yeah. It goes back to that idea of stretching yourself beyond your existing
Yes,
capabilities
yes,
and what you started with at the beginning about being open-minded. and open-minded to the possibilities. And things like that, and building Black women of hospitality really provides an opportunity to learn and to build those skill sets. And I think that's true of a lot of, when I say event, like it could be something like the pandemic, or it could
Yep.
be something that, if you've experienced a tragedy in your life, or these kinds of events, they trigger us usually to learn something and to change as a person. So that's a great example of that. We are, I think, going through another really big phase of change in the world, as we come out of the pandemic, and there's just constant change happening with technology. And what are the leadership competencies do you think we need in this next period of rapid change?
Oh, yes. So technical skills. Back in the day, you could just have somebody do something for you. Now you have to get more with the technical world because everything is starting to require a lot of technology, from running reports to, just doing a lot of day-to-day assignments and jumping on different systems. You also have to have a mindset change. We have a lot of young leaders now that are not going to put in 5, 6, 7 years of a working resume to get to their destinations. They're coming in and they want to do
Mm,
the work a year max, and then they're like, what's the next role? And we can't say, oh, well, when I was coming up, I worked in 7 different departments. It's a total different generation. So you have to be willing to change and understand the millennial mindset, because that is what we're getting that's coming to our companies. Like, they want to be the president tomorrow.
right.
So we have to adjust our mindsets and help them, because if we don't engage them, they're gonna leave.
Right. Right.
They're gonna leave.
And how do you do that? Do you have some examples of that?
So I have a millennial in my office, and I don't expect her to work for me, past 2.5 years. So I have check-ins with her all the time. Like, how are you feeling? Are you ready for your next step? I engage her so she
Mm,
can have that open dialogue and never feel like I'm not going to support her, or I'm going to tell her, that she's not ready for something. And then if I have to tell her that she's not ready for something, then I need to think about, well, why isn't she?
right.
That kind of falls back on me because I'm her leader. So if she's not, I need to get her ready. So I have to have constant communication as well. And then you want to make sure that it's realistic too, because you don't want them to fail. So if it's something that you don't think is realistic, you need to be honest. A lot of
Hmm.
leaders don't have honest conversations with their team members. They would just rather them find out on their own, because they don't have the managerial courage to have the conversation. And that is so important. My leaders, they love the fact that I'm very honest. I would tell them, if no, this is why you're not ready, because these are the examples that you have shown. But let's come up with a plan where we can
Hmm.
get you there. And I give them a time frame and hold their leader accountable to ensure that they are following the plan. And you always want to circle back with a follow-up of action.
Yeah.
If this looks like this is going to happen, or if it's not going to happen.
Yeah. You bring up two really critical pieces of practicing leadership, and I think one is the mutual feedback. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a two-way street, like
Yep.
asking for feedback and input from someone who works for you, and giving that feedback, and doing that have you read or heard about radical candor?
I have not.
So there's this great book. I think it's by an author named I think it's Kim Scott. And it's just this idea, like, of what you were just talking about having courageous conversations and authentic conversations where, you know, you're direct and you are honest and you're really giving someone what they need to grow. And not, I mean, you're not doing it in a way that's going to hurt them, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be giving them feedback that's really meaningful that they can do something with. And we're often, you know, we hold ourselves back and we're not practicing candor because we're afraid what someone will think, or we're afraid they're going to leave, or and that doesn't serve anyone, right? If you're not
Yep.
being honest and truthful about what's really necessary, and doing it with the right intentions. And I think everything you just described is doing it with the intention that you want to help this person to move forward in their career, for sure.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So, what is your leadership edge?
Drive. I am very, very driven. And if if I don't accomplish what I need to accomplish, I'm thinking about it when I leave
Hmm.
work. It's on my
Yeah.
mind. I can't let it rest until I've accomplished it. And then I'm on to the next thing. And that's really my edge. Like it's never gonna be enough. I finished one project and now I'm thinking about something else I could get myself
Uh-huh.
into. And it's like, oh my goodness, Stacia, just it's okay to have a moment of downtime after you've completed one project. Sometimes I just have multiple projects going at one time, and I'm just like, okay, now I need to finish this. It's just like it's constant, and I can't turn it off, which sometimes that could be a weakness too.
Right. It's something to watch out for that you don't drive
Yeah,
yourself into burnout.
right.
Yeah. You know, that's, I think, everyone in their career might at sometimes that you know, sometimes rather than others experience feelings where they don't have that drive and motivation. um you know, if we're using the analogy, let's say it's like driving a car, what is the motor that allows you to have that drive? Can you identify what kind of pushes you to always be looking to that next goal and achievement that you're going after?
I think because I went so long, not being confident and being stagnant in my growth and being my own barrier, that I made a commitment to myself that I'll never do that again. So I'm trying to make sure now that I've reached my goal that I set another goal and I don't wait another 4 years and get complacent and then try to advance to something else. So I said, Stacia, not this time. You made your goal. Now what next? Don't wait and say, oh, I'm going to wait till I have been a director 2 years. Time waits on
Right.
no one. And that's when I say, wait a minute, I'm going to start having the millennial mindset, right? And saying,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to do this for a year and then I'm going to do something else after that. And that is really the engine that's keeping me going, because when I look back of how long I waited and wasn't doing anything but just being committed to being an assistant director. I wasn't thinking outside the box. I wasn't thinking about making an impact. I wasn't thinking about giving back. I wasn't thinking about any of those things. And when I
Yeah.
was pushed out of my comfort zone and ready to go and really accomplish my goal, that's when I started being really shaped as a leader and saying, now, what else do you want to be known for besides an
Mm.
HR director?
Yeah.
It made me open up my mind.
Wow. That it's very inspiring because I think what you just described was a transformation of this really deep inner belief in yourself. And that's the motor.
And it's a
And
beautiful thing because you can feel things happening with you. You can see things happening with you. And you're like, oh my goodness, you had all this in. You kept all this bottled in
yeah,
until you were ready to bloom.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. So that's very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
How do you want to be remembered?
Oh, I want to be remembered as the person that was always there to help someone,
Hmm.
whether, it was just a listening ear or a sense of comfort, a sense of giving them belief and self-confidence. I want to be remembered for that. I want to be remembered for having integrity. I want to
Hmm.
be remembered for having empathy. I want to be remembered for just being a great person with a heart because that is just so hard to find.
Hmm.
People can deal with policies and procedures and things of that nature, but the question at the end of the day, did that person really have a heart? Did they really
Hmm.
listen? Did they really care?
Yeah. When you started the answering that question, you kind of looked up, and I felt like this softness in how you were responding to the question. I don't know if I'm describing it well, but um, you were feeling something at that moment. What were you feeling?
You know, I have experienced working either indirectly or directly with people that just didn't care. And I just couldn't relate to that,
Hmm.
so, and sometimes I'm like, people sometimes perform jobs and they don't care. And,
Yeah.
and I try to assess like, how could you be in that kind of field and not?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to ever experience that with me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it makes you feel uncomfortable, it makes you feel different, and it gives you a sense of loneliness. So I want anyone that encounters me to feel that I gave them something, you know,
Yeah.
whether they left with a smile, whether even if they didn't like something, they said, well, you know what, she held me accountable, but at the end of the day, she did it with care.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
matters to me. How you treat people matters to me.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. So it's that feeling of like, this is somewhere where you can really make a difference for people.
Absolutely. And it's a no judgment zone because I have been judged for my
Hmm.
personality sometimes in the
Hmm.
past of being too passionate, of
Yeah.
speaking too loudly. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can't control those things. Like, I'm an energetic person, I'm a passionate person. That's who I am, and it shouldn't be looked at as a flaw
No,
or to
not at
see
all.
if that's something that could blend in with others. Everyone has a different attribute about themselves, and mine is the passion. Sometimes when people are looking for certain individuals to work for their organizations, they may look for passion and may have to go through 100 interviews and may not find it.
Right.
So for someone that told me that being too passionate is something that's not great, I have found that it is definitely an attribute,
Hmm.
and it's hard to find people with passion.
Yeah. And that's I mean, something we should be embracing. And
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's coming out with you is your belief in that as a strength and using that to your advantage in your way of being a leader and
Yep.
how that makes you a unique leader.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that's very important. What vision would you pursue if you had everything you needed to succeed right now?
Oh, I would probably work full time doing my business and the work for the organization.
And what makes you say that?
Because that's something that's very dear to me and I'm very passionate about. When I do work outside of my job and I work on that, I don't consider that work
Right.
because that's something I want to do. That's
Yeah.
something that's shaping me of what I want to be known for. So
Yeah.
if I had all the resources, I would be working on that every single day as a full-time job.
Yeah. And it's something that what I'm hearing about that is it's something that you would be fully in ownership of it for yourself, and that it's really coming from that deep place of
Hmm.
purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Stacia, this has been an amazing conversation. I'd like to give you the opportunity, if there's anything else you think that we've missed in our talk today, what would you like to tell our audience?
I would just like to first say thank you for watching and tuning in. Second of all, if you know a woman that's in need of a safe space, in need of being part of a community, if you feel like you can't provide her with the resources and you feel that she can find those resources through Black Women of Hospitality, I encourage you to ask that woman to join the organization. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as Instagram under Black Women of Hospitality. And there is something in there for every woman, whether you want to learn or whether you want to serve or whether you want to give back and teach others. I encourage you to tell them about the organization because it really will make them an overall better woman, better person, and help them develop professionally as well.
Amazing. And I think they can reach out to you personally as
And
well
they
on
can reach out
LinkedIn.
to me personally because I love that one-on-one direct connecting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stacia, for joining us today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Until next time, this is Rachel Vandenberg, and this is the Travel Leader Podcast.